The sun dipped below the horizon. Shadows stretched long and thin across the manicured lawns of Maplewood Drive. A hush fell over the neighborhood as streetlights flickered to life. At the end of the cul-de-sac, bathed in the orange glow of the setting sun, stood number 27, a quaint two-story house with dark green shutters. This was Anna's home. It had always been a place of peace and solitude, but that was about to change. A delivery truck rumbled down the street, breaking the evening stillness. It stopped in front of Anna's house. The driver, a burly man with a gruff demeanor, hefted a large, antique-looking trunk from the back. He carried it up the front steps and placed it gently by the door. He rang the doorbell and left without a word. Anna peeked through the curtains. She felt a shiver run down her spine. The trunk was ornately carved with strange symbols and bound in tarnished brass. It looked ancient, like something out of a forgotten attic or a haunted antique shop. With hesitant steps, Anna approached the mysterious trunk. It was heavier than it looked, as if burdened by unseen weight. The brass lock was unlocked. With a deep breath, Anna lifted the lid. Inside, nestled in faded velvet, lay a gramophone and a single vinyl record. The gramophone was a work of art, crafted from polished rosewood and gleaming brass. It seemed to pulse with an energy that sent chills down Anna's spine. The record, on the other hand, was starkly simple. A plain black disc with a single handwritten label that read, "The Sound of Silence." Curiosity warred with trepidation within Anna. Where had this come from? Who had sent it? A note tucked into the corner of the trunk caught her eye. It simply read, "Play it." Drawn by an unseen force, Anna set up the gramophone. She placed the record, its black surface reflecting the dim light, onto the turntable. As the needle dropped, a low hum filled the room, a vibration that seemed to resonate deep within her bones. Then, silence. The silence stretched, thin and taut, like a thread about to snap. It was an unnerving, expectant silence, pregnant with unseen possibilities. A sense of unease settled over Anna, a creeping disquiet that raised goosebumps on her arms. She felt a presence in the room, something unseen, watching, waiting. And then, a sound. It began softly, a low, mournful wail that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the house. It grew in intensity, morphing into a haunting melody, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It was the sound of silence given voice, a symphony of the unseen, and it chilled Anna to her core. As the music swirled around her, Anna noticed a change in the atmosphere of her home. Shadows seemed to deepen and writhe, taking on menacing shapes in the corners of her vision. Whispers danced on the edge of hearing, too faint to discern, yet undeniably present. A cold draft snaked through the room, raising goosebumps on her arms despite the warmth of the evening. Objects began to move. A vase rattled on a shelf as if shaken by an unseen hand. A picture frame tilted on the wall, its cheerful image now skewed and sinister. Anna's heart pounded in her chest, a frantic drum against the backdrop of the eerie melody. Fear, potent and cold, coiled in the pit of her stomach. Driven by a desperate need for answers, Anna delved into the mystery of the gramophone and its haunting music. She researched antique shops and online forums, searching for any mention of a record labeled "The Sound of Silence." Her search led her to a name: Edward Forrester, a reclusive composer who had vanished without a trace decades earlier. Section 5. The Composer's Story. Edward Forrester, Anna learned, was a musical genius, a tormented artist who poured his soul into his compositions. He lived a solitary life, shunning society and pouring all his energy into his music. His works were said to be hauntingly beautiful, full of melancholy and longing. Then, at the height of his career, he disappeared. Anna found an old newspaper article detailing Forrester's disappearance. He had vanished from his secluded cabin, leaving behind all his belongings, including an unfinished symphony. The police suspected foul play, but no trace of him was ever found. Some whispered that the symphony, said to be his most ambitious and personal work, had driven him mad. The more Anna learned about Edward Forrester, the more convinced she became that his fate was somehow intertwined with the gramophone and the haunting record. She imagined him, alone in his cabin, pouring his heart and soul into his final masterpiece, only to be consumed by the very forces he sought to channel. Section 6. Deeper into the abyss. The hauntings intensified. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, sometimes morphing into fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures lurking at the edge of her vision. The music from the gramophone seemed to seep into the very fabric of the house, a constant, unsettling presence. Sleep offered no escape. Anna was plagued by nightmares, vivid and terrifying, in which she was trapped in Forrester's desolate cabin, the unfinished symphony playing on an endless loop. She woke each morning with a gasp, her heart pounding, the haunting melody echoing in her ears even after the record had stopped playing. Fear threatened to consume her, yet a strange compulsion kept her tethered to the gramophone and its haunting melody. It was as if she were bound to the composer's fate, compelled to unravel the mystery of his disappearance and the secret of the haunting music. Section 7. The Hidden Message. One evening, as Anna sat listening to the record, a new sound emerged from the music. It was faint at first, almost imperceptible beneath the layers of mournful strings and haunting woodwinds. It was a repeating pattern, a subtle variation in the melody that sent chills down her spine. She listened intently, her heart pounding in her chest. The pattern was deliberate, intentional. It was a message woven into the very fabric of the music. Desperately she searched for a way to decipher it, to understand its meaning. Days turned into sleepless nights as Anna pored over the record, analysing every note, every inflection, every subtle nuance. She researched musical cryptography, desperate to unlock the secret hidden within the haunting melody. Finally, a breakthrough. The repeating pattern she discovered corresponded to a series of musical notes. When translated using a simple cipher, they spelled out a word, a name: Abigail. Abigail, Anna realized, must have been the name of Edward Forrester's lost love, the inspiration for his haunting music. Section 8. The Final Note. The name Abigail echoed in Anna's mind. She could almost hear it whispered on the wind, see it etched into the grooves of the record. It was the key, she realized, the missing piece of the puzzle. Edward Forrester hadn't disappeared, he was trapped, his spirit bound to the music, forever searching for his lost love. A crazy idea took root in her mind. Could she use the gramophone, the very instrument that seemed to hold Forrester captive, to set him free? Could she complete his unfinished symphony, play the final note that would reunite him with his beloved Abigail? With trembling hands, Anna sat down at the piano. She had never been a gifted musician, but she could feel the melody flowing through her, guiding her fingers across the keys. It was as if Edward Forrester himself were playing through her, pouring his soul into every note. As the final chord reverberated through the room, the gramophone shuddered violently. The record spun wildly, a high-pitched whine filling the air, then silence. The record stopped spinning. The haunting melody ceased. The air in the room seemed to crackle with energy, then dissipate, leaving behind an eerie stillness. Section 9. Silence Falls. Anna sat for a long moment, her heart pounding, her breath caught in her throat. The house was silent, the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The shadows had retreated, the whispers silenced. Edward Forrester was gone, his spirit finally at peace. She looked at the gramophone, now still and lifeless. It was just an object, she realized, beautiful but inanimate. The true power had resided in the music, in the story it told, in the emotions it evoked. And now, the story was over. With a sigh, Anna packed away the gramophone and the record, placing them back in the antique trunk. She carried the trunk outside, leaving it by the curb for whoever or whatever had delivered it. As she closed the door, she felt a sense of closure, of peace. The haunting was over, but the memory of Edward Forrester, the tormented composer, and his haunting music would stay with her always.